Good morning and welcome to the August 3rd, 2020 Pitt County Board of Commissioners meeting. This meeting is being held virtual with our Board of Commissioners participating via Zoom. This time I'll turn the meeting over to our chairman, Mr. Melvin McLaughlin.
Thank you, Ms. Manager Scott, and thank all of you for joining us this morning. First, I hope that you all remain safe from this approaching.
Good morning and welcome to the August 3rd, 2020 Pitt County Board of Commissioners meeting being held virtual with our Board of Commissioners participating via Zoom.
I continue to hear you, Mr. Manager. You're sounding good if you want me to. But again, let me welcome all of you to this morning's meeting. And as I was saying, I hope that you all survive this approaching hurricane, or maybe it's a tropical storm now. So welcome. Madam Clerk, we'll go down to the roll call.
Chairman McLaughlin.
Present.
Vice Chairman Coulson.
Here.
Commissioner Albright.
Here.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins.
Here.
Commissioner Nunnally.
Here.
Commissioner Ward.
Present.
Commissioner White.
Here.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Here.
Everyone is present.
Thank you. Thank you very much. At this time, we'll have invocation and followed by our pledge by our managers, Scott. Thank you, Lord, for life, health, and strength. Continue to bless us and keep us safe from all sickness and disease, especially this coronavirus. Help us to make the decision that will be pleasing to thy sight. That's all of these blessings in thy holy name. Amen. Mr. Manager.
Face the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Chairman, you have Commissioner Nunnally's hand up.
Commissioner Nunnally.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All right, do we have a second?
You have Commissioner and Floyd Huggins.
Commissioner Huggins.
Second.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
Chairman McLaughlin.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Coulson. Vice Chairman Coulson.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins. Commissioner Nunnally.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Approve.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now, our manager, do we have any public address to the board?
Yes, sir. You have one person signed up prior to the meeting who is calling in. It's Brian Fagundis with ARC Consulting. If our PO office can queue him up. And if the attorney will read our public addresses statement real quick.
Yes, Pitt County welcomes comments on all matters of public concern. Please state your name and address prior to speaking, and I'll keep your time at 3 minutes per speaker.
Chairman McLaughlin, I believe Mr. Fagundis is on the call for
The Stallings mini storage.
one of the items for decision. Yes.
Item. Conditional zoning case. So we want to hold him until that time. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, yes, let's hold them to the time. Anybody else that we have?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, we'll move on now to the items for report. This is coming from our tax collector, Sam Croom.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning,
Good
Mr. Manager. Good morning, Commissioners. It's good to be with y'all this morning. I bring you the June 2020 tax collection report. Pitt County fiscal year to date from July 1, 2019 until June 30th, 2020. The combined collection rate for real and personal property was 99.42%. The combined rate 1 year ago was 99.37%. Pitt County Tax Administration continues to pursue all outstanding taxes using all the available remedies through the North Carolina General Statutes. My recommendation is to approve the report as presented.
Thank you very much. Have a motion. Do we have anyone that like make a
Commissioner
motion?
Nunnally has his hand up.
I'm sorry,
Commissioner Nunnally has a hand up,
Commissioner Nunnally?
and Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Motion to approve.
Commissioner Ward.
I second the motion.
That's been moved and properly second. Madam Clerk?
Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes?
Vice Chair Coulson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunnally,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
True.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Mr. Croom, you're up again.
Yes. Also, too, I'd like to make a statement before I present the annual settlement. I want to make the board aware that various drainage district commissions in Pitt County met on July 28, 2020, and then increased their drainage assessments for the current fiscal year and after our annual billing. Due to these factors that were beyond our control, Tax Administration will be mailing out supplemental bills for the increased assessments. The majority of citizens will see a $10 increase based on drainage assessment minimums going from $11 to $21. In two districts, citizens will see a 2.5% increase going from 2.5% to 5% assessment rates, which will increase beyond the minimum. The supplemental bills will be mailed later this month to the affected taxpayers, and the cost of the supplemental billing will be paid by the Southeastern Drainage Corporation. If you have any questions.
Any questions? I hear none.
Hand up by Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Good morning, Mr. Croom. Good morning, board members. This increase, you said can you share with us what areas of the increase is done?
These areas, there was only 2 drainage districts that will not be affected. I'm not exactly sure where they're located, but there was 10 that met and 10 of the 12 will be increasing. So this will be seen throughout the county.
And this increase is to be used for the continued maintenance and clearing of the drainage canals and the maintenance that is required on them. And this is all governed by the Board of Commissioners for each of the drainage district commissions who impose the assessment, and the county is just required to include that on our tax bill to reflect what they vote to do.
Are you saying that each of us voted into the various drainage district that we are representing?
No, ma'am, I'm saying the Board of County Commissioners has really nothing directly to do with the operation of the drainage districts and the commissions. There's I believe a 3-person commission for each drainage district, and they have to vote, hold a public hearing, and kind of go through a similar process that you go through in terms of adopting a budget. And they were, I guess they had to do it on July 28th this year for some factors that occurred.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager. I just wanted a clarification for the residents here.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? If
No,
not,
sir.
I'm sorry.
No, sir. No one else.
Okay,
No one hand up.
could I have a motion for approval?
No motion is needed on that matter.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Croom.
Bringing another item for report to the commissioners this morning. The annual settlement for taxes for the fiscal year 2019 through 2020. After July 1, 2020, and before being charged with taxes to collect during the current fiscal year, the tax collector is required to give a sworn statement to the Board of Commissioners as the annual settlement of taxes in accordance with General Statute 105-373A. Along with this settlement, I provided a memo that kind of help explains the settlement. And also too, we will be making list available of unpaid taxes in the tax office and also in the clerk's office. My recommendation is to approve the annual settlement of taxes for 2019, 2020 as presented.
Thank you very much. Do we have someone like to make a motion?
You have Commissioner Ward and Commissioner Perkins Williams hands up.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the taxes for fiscal year 2019, 2020.
thank you. Commissioner Perkins Williams.
I
Commissioner-
second the motion.
Okay, has been moving properly. Second, Madam Clerk?
Chairman McLawhorn,
Yes.
Vice Chair Coulson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunnally,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Crew. We now have Dr. Silvernail that will come for a report only.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Manager, Madam Attorney, Madam Clerk. Thursday this week will mark 10 incubation cycles or 20 weeks since the first case of COVID-19 was identified in Pitt County. That's a long time, approximately 5 months. On July 13th, 2020, Pitt County Health Department stood up its COVID-19 testing program. Over the past 3 weeks, we have tested in excess of 4,000 Pitt County residents. The rate of positivity of this testing remains flat at about 7%. Most of the individuals we have tested have been asymptomatic. Some of these new cases likely represent cases that are more than 15 days old and would already be in the convalescent phase of the illness. As described in previous reports, 2 fixed sites operate daily, J.H. Rose High School and the Moywood Community Center. A third rotating site services other parts of the county. On Mondays, that site is in Farmville at the Farmville Community Center. On Tuesdays, it's in Bethel at the Bethel Elementary School. On Wednesdays, it is in Grimesland at G.R. Whitfield School. Thursdays, it's in Ayden at the Ayden Middle School. And Friday, it is in Winterville at the Winterville Fire Station. Testing this week was suspended for Monday and Tuesday pending the oncoming storm. We had to make a decision on Friday in order to inform the public. And on Friday, it looked like the storm would be here this morning. So we did cancel this morning's testing. We will likely reinstate that on Wednesday or Thursday, depending on the rapidity at which the storm moves through our community. Testing will continue under this current model through August 14th, 2020. As noted, most of our sites are school sites. Schools will reopen on the 17th of this month, and we will reconfigure our testing program and continue testing via our facility at Pitt County Health Department on the Government Circle Complex. We will be doing a series of immunization clinics at Pitt County schools after the schools open, and we are looking at a way to incorporate some COVID-19 testing into those operations as well. I must give my staff a huge pat on the back for this operation, especially Dr. Kimberly Hardy, my Director of Nursing, and her assistant, Portia Mazel. All of our public health nurses and many of our other staff across all divisions of Pitt County Health Department have been involved in this operation. I want to take a minute and just run through the data with you. Staff, if you can share the screen. Commissioners, can you see that screen yet? Lou, Mike, Carla, Kyle? There we go. All right, this is the total for the state. So across the state, we've had 125,219 confirmed laboratory cases. The state says that we have completed 1,813,510 tests, and there are currently 1,142 individuals hospitalized. If we move to our county data, give me a second just to get that to come up. This is still showing the state data on the state curve. And I think you see there's maybe a favorable trend there starting to flatten off and maybe head down. Go to Pitt County. There's our county curve. You can see we had a relatively flat curve out until about the end of May, beginning of June. We started to see some uptick in that. And then when we opened our testing program, we've gone out where we are essentially doing active case finding in epidemiologic terms. And it's more clear if you look at the case here is July 13th. On the first day of our testing program, we tested about 422 individuals in Pitt County. We tested about 416 the second day. And amongst those, we are finding in the 50 to 60 case range. So you can see again, that nice slow progression. Memorial Day, got into 4th of July, some uptick. And then when our testing program took off, we really started to find a fairly large number of cases. Throughout this, though, the percentage of positivity has remained relatively flat at 7%. Our highest was 21% and change back in April. Quick look, demographics, largest group at 41% is the 25 to 49-year-old age group. While it's not good that anyone gets COVID, the fact that the most of our cases are in younger, healthier individuals is encouraging because they're likely to have a mild to moderate illness and not require a lot of medical care. If you look at the 75 and over age group, that accounts for about 4% of our cases. When I flip this to the deaths, here you see that unfortunately that accounts for 55% of our deaths in Pitt County, 27% in 65 to 74, and 18%, excuse me, in the 50 to 64-year-old age group. We have not had a death below the age of 50 in Pitt County. Males have died almost 2 to 1 over females from this. The deaths have been 73% white to 27% Black or African American. In our cases where earlier in our county data, African Americans had led whites. Whites have overtaken African Americans in the state data. There are a fair number of cases missing race and identity, ethnic identity data, which could affect those numbers. And that's a quick look at the state data. Finally, this is a personal thing, but I do want the Board of Commissioners to be aware of. Next Monday, I will be having some gallbladder surgery. We'll have my gallbladder out next Monday. I will be medically unfit for duty from August 10th through August 13th. That is Monday through Thursday. I will not be able to answer calls or emails because I will be under the influence of anesthesia and other medications. At that time, I will be answering emails and phone beginning on Friday the 14th and expect to be back in the office physically on the 17th. During that time, Dr. Keith Ramsey, the chairman of the Board of Health, will cover the medical director responsibilities at the health department. And that is my report for this morning. I thank you for your attention.
Dr. Silverno, a question came up this week about the turnaround in terms of how long it takes for the test to be determined whether you're positive or negative. Could you update the board on that?
From the standpoint, when it hits the Vidant lab, we are seeing less than 24 hours turnaround from the Vidant lab. There is the processing and collection time on our end. So while we do tell individuals that it may take up to 7 days to hear results, in general, we are receiving and reporting results out in 24 to 48 hours for the most part.
Great, thank you. Mr. Chairman, we have a hand up by Commissioner Perkins Williams and Commissioner White.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Silvernail, thank you so much for what you do. And I guess I'm not sorry that you're going in service, but I appreciate the information. My question is, you made a statement that, I know this is a report, but you made a statement that the school will reopening and there will be certain testing done on some of the children. My question is, are the parents aware of the test prior to?
Ms. Perkins Williams, we are going to be sponsoring some immunization clinics for the students. And we would like to try to incorporate some testing there for parents and or students. Anything that would be done to a minor would require the consent of the parent. So we would not test any minors without the consent of a parent.
Thank you very much. That was my concern. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Commissioner White.
I just simply wanted to say, Dr. Silvernail, I wish you a very speedy recovery when you have your procedure done.
Well, thank you very much.
You have a hand up by Commissioner Albright.
Commissioner Albright.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Silvernail. I'm especially happy to hear the news about the turnaround on the testing. I hope that we all in the county can appreciate, given the news all over the country, how badly that turnaround has been going, that the cooperation between our county health and Vidant has really been terrific. And it's good news that you're continuing with that. And I do appreciate your work and the staff. And I echo the other good wishes with you and your surgery. My only question really is if you could comment on any contact tracing, if that doesn't seem to be talked about a lot anymore.
We did receive support staff through the State Contact Tracing Initiative, CCNC. So our positives flow two ways. They flow to us through NC EDS, and in general, our communicable disease staff do those interviews and get them into NC EDS and pass them on to the contact tracers. Sometimes we do have a contact investigator provided through CCNC, and that individual also assists with that. One of the bonuses of using this is over the weekend, the CCNC staff do notify cases and do contact people through the weekend, which normally our staff would not be working on the weekend. So that is a bonus to that. At this point, we feel that we're doing a good job with that. Our cases get handed off to the contact tracing staff quickly. I will admit there are some problems with phone follow-up. Some people don't want to answer the call. Some people don't want to give contact information. We've heard some things like, I don't want to be in a government registry, things like that. But we are able to reach out to these individuals and get up at least with usually the first ring of contacts. But it is difficult. We're chasing an infection that spreads with the ease of the common cold. So it is difficult. One of the reasons we chose to use Vidant for our testing vendor was the rapid turnaround time. We felt if we were going to do the testing, we wanted the positive results to be actionable, and we are getting them back in a time frame that makes them actionable, where with many of the commercial labs, they're 5 to 7 days or perhaps even longer. I heard one story of a 14-day turnaround on a commercial lab, which is just not utilizable from a contact tracing standpoint. So we are doing contact tracing. There are some rubs with it. In the final analysis, this is a difficult thing to contact trace and contain because of how easily it spreads, but we are doing the best we can with it.
Yeah, thank you. One other, just real quick, can you comment on what's going on with ECU coordination with campus? Is they're trying to get back running? What kind of role do you have in that?
Mm-hmm. We have some ongoing negotiations with ECU. I've been on several standing committees at ECU. Chancellor Mitchelson and I spoken personally, both on the phone and face to face, and have been working through an agreement with Student Health Services to have them help us with managing issues on the campus. And we may, and that negotiation is ongoing. I was speaking with our county attorney about that this morning. We're putting the finishing touches on that, hopefully, where we will have an agreement with them that will share responsibility with student health services, facilitate data sharing between what we collect and what they collect, so that they know who on their campus has been tested and tested positive. So we are almost there with that agreement. We'll be working closely with them. Chancellor Mitchelson and I have each other's personal contact information and have spoken about this directly.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You have Commissioner Nunnally's hand up.
Commissioner Nunnally.
I'm glad to hear that we are able to keep testing here in county at Biden, and happy to hear that the turnaround times are a lot smaller. There's still a lot of, I think, people in the community that are hearing the news of 6-7 day turnarounds. And I think the more that folks know here that we're getting those turnarounds 24, 48 hours, I know that we can't say for sure that it'll be that quick, but I'm really glad to hear that your department's been able to work that arrangement out and not sending out to private labs. So thank you. Wanted to just maybe bring up with ECU coming back in and our percent positivity rate kind of holding at 7%. I think the World Health Organization's recommendation is that we really want to see numbers below 5%. But what if you could just briefly outline for our community, what do we need to continue to do to make sure that we keep those infection rates low as we enter the fall? And you know, we've been in this a long time, but I don't think that it could be heard enough what our community needs to continue to do to make sure that we keep that rate low.
Thank you, Commissioner. In terms of prevention, it is about masking when you can't stay 6 feet away from people. It is about waiting 6 feet away from people so that we create that gap and prevent the transmission from person to person. It is about hygiene, washing our hands frequently so that we don't inadvertently get this virus on our hands and self-inoculate by touching our eyes, nose, or mouth. So it comes back to that, you know, what the state has put out as the 3 W's: wear, wait, and wash. You see, I have my mask around my neck this morning. And then just common sense things. It's avoiding large gatherings. As I said in my letter to community, there's a great temptation this time of year to have barbecues, to have gatherings. I suggested in that letter that people think long and hard about that, and if they do, to make provisions for social distancing in those gatherings.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, you have Commissioner Perkins Williams' hand up.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Dr. Silvernell, I just wanted to say to Vida, I took the break. I took Courage weekend before last and took the test, and the turnaround was very positive. I took the test on a Saturday morning, and Sunday afternoon, I don't know the exact time, I received the results of my test. And I had no symptoms, but it was a relief knowing confidentially and knowing from Biden that my test was negative. So I like to encourage the residents, if you have an opportunity to take the test. I do know that one of the revolving sites is scheduled for the 15th down at Triumph to get the edge of my district down in Beaufort County area. And anyone can take the test. The staff was very positive, they were cordial, and I was comfortable to take it because I don't care too much for doctors and court systems. So I like to say that it is positive and it is good. And Biden, I like to say thank you for your services, and I appreciate your doing this. And if the hurricane comes and you can't do that, I'm sure Biden will let you know. They are placing the ad in the newspaper at Beaufort County and in the newspaper in Pitt County. Thank you so much, Biden, for speaking up, stepping up to outreach in the community in which you live? Thank you.
I would mention, if I can have 1 second, Vidant's been a great partner to us. Vidant, we are not the only testing game in town. Vidant is a CHAMPS vendor under the state program to reach out to minority communities, and they have been doing a great deal of testing across Eastern North Carolina and here in Pitt County. I worked with Dave Harlow at Vidant to help him get a site scheduled for the Belvoir Elementary School in the near future to do some testing up in the Belvoir area. So we're doing testing, Vidant's doing testing. All of the private medical practices and public medical practices that we're doing testing continue to do that. So there's an abundance of testing being done in Pitt County at this time.
Okay. Are there any other hands, Mr. Manager?
That's all you have.
All right. Thank you.
Let me share with you, Dr. Silvernail. I want to thank you again on behalf of the commissioners. And as Commissioner White mentioned, we hope that you have a very speedy recovery and that everything goes well during your procedure.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. At this time, we have John Demery that will come.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Back in December 2000, Pitt County Board of Commissioners approved a franchise agreement with C&D Landfill to construct and operate a construction and demolition debris landfill located off of 264 near Pactolus. The franchise agreement now needs to be renewed for an additional 5 years, beginning August 1st, 2020 until July 31st, 2025. Pitt County Board of Commissioners must hold a public hearing and pass the franchise agreement at 2 regular Board of Commissioners meetings to secure the renewal of the franchise agreement. The public hearing will be advertised as required in the Daily Reflector, and the public hearing is scheduled to be held Monday, August 17th at 6 p.m. Pitt County Solid Waste Enterprise Fund receives $1 per ton for waste delivered to the site. And they cannot operate the C&D landfill without the franchise agreement. I want to make that clear. Back in February of this year, Pitt County Solid Waste and Recycling staff, along with the county manager, met with C&D landfill to discuss the agreement between Pitt County and C&D landfill. Over the past several months, negotiations for a new contract for disposal of the construction demolition waste from the transfer station have been ongoing. C&D landfill notified the county their desire to no longer transport the C&D waste to the landfill. The current contract is set to expire July 31st of this year. A proposed contract has been prepared and will be submitted to the board for your approval once the franchise agreement has been approved. We also have met with Trio Legacy Shavender Trucking, who currently hauls our solid waste under contract with Republic Services since 2002, where we've negotiated a contract for them to transport the C&D waste to the landfill. County has, C&D landfill has notified the county their desire to stop hauling the C&D waste. Staff has met with Trio Legacy and negotiated a price, and a proposed contract will also be presented for the Board of Commissioners when the franchise agreement has been approved. This is just a report, and I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody may have.
Any hands, Mr. Mayor?
No hands up, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. This is the manager report now at this time.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. If you will allow me, I'd like to ask Randy Gentry to come up and give us a briefing on the tropical storm Aisa that is coming our way. Randy?
Good morning, Chairman McLaughlin and Commissioners. Just give you a quick update as to the busyness of emergency management for the last several days. We've been watching the forecast and preparing to respond to whatever needs Pitt County may have during this storm, tropical storm that's impending. The latest update on weather was at 8:30 this morning from National Weather, and looking at what they're predicting for our area, we feel like our response at this time is to continue to monitor the forecast for the next several hours to see about the change. But prior to this weekend, we went ahead and positioned some assets in the county. Should we have to open a shelter, we are in a position to do that. But our messaging is consistent with the state as they've been publicizing over the last at least month or so during the COVID-19 time. And our message is, like I said, consistent with the state that the shelter is the last resort because of COVID-19. So our message, and we worked with the county PIO to put out a video explaining to the citizens that now and previous was the time to prepare and make a plan for any storm, not just this one, but any storm, that they find a suitable structure. If they do not live in a suitable structure, to find family, friends, consider a hotel, or either leave the area during the time of impact. Because right now with the COVID-19, we feel like that based for this storm that's in the next 24 hours, that the risk of COVID-19 outweigh the benefit of the shelter. So we're asking everyone to find a suitable structure if they don't have one. But now's the time to prepare. There'll be a weather update at 11:30 a.m. That will give us one more opportunity to assess the forecast. But based on the forecast, the impact for Pitt County from National Weather is from that 1:30 a.m. to about a 3:30 a.m. on its current track. Now, weather changes, so that's why we're continuing to watch that. But based on the information from 8:30 this morning, the high winds and rain between that 1:30 and 3:30 a.m. But the message that they're driving for this storm for our area in Eastern North Carolina is the potential for tornadoes. So I'm asking all citizens to make sure that they either have a weather radio, or either they have their cell phone on all night long. Do not cut your cell phone off. Make sure that your notification feature is on, so that should there be a tornado in our area, that you'll be properly notified through the cell phone system. And so that's very important that we do that. So that's right now is the biggest impact that we think we could have, is that potential for the tornadoes. Of course, we'll continue to watch and make adjustments to our response as necessary.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Otherwise, Mr. Chairman, items to report to you. Next meeting dates, you have one more meeting this month on the 17th. That will continue to be a virtual meeting utilizing Zoom. And then in the month of September on Monday, the 14th at 9 a.m. On that was item A. Item B, Human Relations Council Commission update. As I previously reported to the board, we are in talks with the city of Greenville. On the county side, we've identified the folks we'd like to be on an exploratory group or to have a discussion with the city. We're waiting for the city to name their folks that would be on their side of the table to discuss this. And right now, the idea is just to have a discussion about whether we would enfold into the city's Human Relations Commission, revamp that, or do something separate and apart. So that's just a quick update on that. Item C, if I can ask Mike Emery to come out quickly, and we would like to announce a redesign of the Pitt County website. And Mike's going to run you through a quick presentation.
Good morning, everyone. While that's pulling up, I got a quick little preview to show you. Just want to go over a very brief history of what has happened over the last year. Despite the delays of COVID-19, we have stayed on schedule, largely on schedule, for getting our website redesigned. As part of our contract with the host for our website, Civic Plus, we are eligible for a redesign every 4 years. The last design was changed when we started our current website in 2016. For the last year, we've had a committee of about 20 individuals from various departments throughout the county taking part in a redesign committee. We have also done 2 surveys, an internal survey among our workforce and an external survey that was on our website throughout the month of November. If we can pull up our graphic here right now, I have a graphic of what our current homepage looks like. And as of August the 10th, our homepage will look like that. So taking the input from our redesign committee, along with the internal and external surveys, some of the new design features, you'll see that this is an all self-contained homepage. There's no scrolling or very minimal scrolling based on the size of your screen. Our county events and our county news, county calendar, they're right here, easily accessible. We have a big backdrop featuring lots of aerial wide photos and some of your quick links of the most requested destinations on our website. So it's a cleaner, more modern, sleeker look. If anyone's interested in learning more, you can contact me and I can show you some of the interior pages and how that's going to look. We were initially looking to launch in mid-July. However, due to the immense demand for our website right now with the COVID information, I made the decision, and Mike Taylor, our Chief Information Officer and Deputy County Manager, he agreed that we should hold off on launching that until later this month in August, to hopefully kind of let some of the demand and the interest kind of go down a little bit, because we didn't want to change up the website right in the middle of when everybody's trying to use it. So that's, like I said, a brief overview of the redesign as it is now. If you'd like more information, you can contact me and I'll be happy to go over it with you.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Next item on the agenda for manager's report is proposed meeting process for quasi-judicial hearings. As a board should be aware, quasi-judicial hearings are basically, you use them for, I think, special use permits. And the witnesses are sworn in, and then any appeal from an action of the Board of County Commissioners in a quasi-judicial hearing format then goes to Superior Court. And the record of the Board of County Commissioners then is taken up to Superior Court with the testimony and that is given by the witnesses. Some of the issues we're having right now, we have a couple of cases that have been pending 4 to 6 months in terms of planning issues. We have one that involves several hundred acres north of the river for a solar farm. And under the North Carolina General Assembly's rules for virtual meetings, in order, we can handle a quasi-judicial hearing process via virtually, but in order to do that, the attorney can correct me if I get anything wrong here, but we have to get everybody who has a standing in that to sign off in agreement that we can handle the hearing virtually. Otherwise, all of the county commissioners would have to be here or majority of the board would have to be here to hear the case. So we have attempted to see if we could get everybody who has a standing in it to sign off. And I think I just saw an email last week saying the one case north of the river, there was one property owner who refused to sign off on that. So thus, since they're not willing to sign off and we can't get the board in yet, we can't hear that case. And again, we've held these folks off for an extended period of time. One solution to that would be that if 5 commissioners or greater were willing to come in, and we could even meet at the Ag Center and hold a special called meeting to handle this case or cases like it in a quasi-judicial format, we could then handle the case. Or if all 9 board members were to come in and we were to use social distancing, we could then handle the case. But otherwise, if of the 9 board members, let's say 5 of you agree to come in, but one person says, well, I want to hear this, but I'm going to call in, I'm going to be virtual, then we're back into and subject to the rules set by the General Assembly during this period of time during COVID-19 for these type of hearings. So what we're suggesting is that the board allow us to communicate with you as board members. Let's say in a case in which you have a matter north of the river, obviously you'd want Commissioner Perkins Williams, Commissioner or Chairman McLawhorn, and those whose districts are directly affected by that case to be here, but then get at least the 5 or more other people who are willing to come in and hear it, and only hear those matters that are planning related, and go ahead and take care of those. But again, we could not do it in a virtual basis over the internet like we're doing this meeting. So what we're seeking is the board's agreement or input or desire whether to do this or not. If we can't do it, if you're not in agreement, then we're going to have to continually hold these cases. And we're getting a lot of pressure from the folks who have filed these cases to be heard. Again, some of these go back to, I believe, March of this year. So we're 5 months plus into it. Okay, we have a hand up by Commissioner Perkins Williams and White.
Okay, Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wouldn't mind coming in on a social districting base since I am the representative in the area. But I would like to ask this question, Mr. Elliott. What type, and I've learned that a lot of the residents in this district is so wide and just large. I would like to know on what kind of opportunity does the citizen in this area have had or will have in the process of a residential expressions?
Madam Attorney, you want to?
Yeah. So if it was a live board meeting and there were at least 5 board members present live, then the public would have the same opportunity to come and speak live. They may submit comments in writing if they choose to do so, which could be shared, but it would be a regular live meeting and you would just maintain your social distancing. So there might be a waiting area with spaces marked, and those who want to speak like they normally would sign up to speak may be called in one by one or may be called in multiple numbers, so long as the capacity of the room is not exceeded. But anybody who wishes to speak would have an opportunity to do so in person, and those who did not want to speak in person could still submit a written comment like they would in a traditional live format.
But prior to that particular hearing, they would not have an opportunity to speak.
That's correct, because it's quasi judicial. So you may only hear the evidence that's in front of you at the time of the hearing. And interested persons should not be communicating with the board member decision makers prior to the hearing.
Thank you. And how many meetings of this type will the residents have opportunity?
Would be one meeting.
We have 2 cases right now.
Three cases, and the residents would have the one opportunity at the meeting that's set to hear that case to present their comments.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. I just wanted the residents to hear this because I do know they listen to our meetings. Thank you so much.
Okay, Commissioner White.
Yes, I was just going to say I'm willing to come in to an in-person meeting so that we don't have to keep putting these hearings off any longer.
Great. We'll have the clerk to the board coordinate this with staff and with the board members.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just add as well, we have done this with the Animal Services Advisory Board, and it has worked very well. They're another body that has a responsibility for quasi-judicial hearings for dangerous dog matters, and they have, rather than putting off those hearings, gotten smaller groups that meet a quorum to hear those in person. And so we have had some positive experience in having folks come in, maintaining social distancing, and that format being successful.
Very, very good. Thank you very much. Mr. Manager.
The next item is an update on the Leroy James Farmers Market. As you recall, back on the last meeting on July 13th, we had a report concerning concerns of the operations of the market. And at that point in time, there was a recommendation that was, the board did not act on this. We just reported that we were looking at maybe temporarily suspending non-food vendors from operating at the farmers market. Since that time, I've asked Lee Guth has done a lot of work on this as well as other staff. She is not available for the meeting this morning, so I did ask her to do a write-up for me. So let me just read this real quickly. Says during the week of July 13th, Lee Guth and Janice Gallagher held 2 listening sessions via Zoom for vendors to express their concerns about temporarily removing craft vendors and their suggestions to increase COVID safety. Approximately 14 vendors attended, majority were craft vendors. And this was after the report came before you that we were going to do this. Obviously, those vendors were upset. says due to the concerns, those plans to suspend the non-food vendors were put on hold. Instead, the county's risk manager assessed the building for limited occupancy and determined that 32 customers could be allowed to shop at one time in the farmer's market. Then the following Saturday on July the 18th was the first day of those changes. It says additional signage was added and one door was designated for entry and one for exit. A temporary worker was hired to help customers as they entered. And then several times there were 20 customers waiting to enter. It says Lee Guth, Janice Gallagher, Florida Hardy, Amy Haddon met the following week to review operations. I went out there on this day on Saturday the 18th just to poke my head in and walk through and view what was going on. I was surprised there were more non-food vendors than I was expecting. It was probably about a 50-50 equation between the non-food and food vendors. Report goes on to say that further on Saturday, July 25th, the following Saturday, the entrance was changed to the front door with the exit at the back. Tents were added for customers to wait under. It says the temporary worker was stationed at the front door and the market manager outside the back door. And they used walkie-talkies to communicate to each other as customers left. The impact from all this, as of July 30th, there were no calls into the COVID hotline with complaints about the farmers market. Going on to say there's mixed information on whether this has impacted sales and customers at the market. I've seen emails saying where it has impacted sales, but says this is the time of year where traffic can decrease due to the end of summer activities and transitioning back to school. One produce vendor reported a decrease in sales of $800. So we did observe several customers leave the market without coming in. It's unclear if that was because of the line or the mask requirement. Some customers reported feeling rushed and couldn't socialize and browse as they have in the past. It says approximately 6 vendors did not wear masks on July 25th. Most customers did wear masks. And then she gives some information about what other markets are doing across the country. And I did ask her to make sure that we are doing best practices across compared to what other markets are doing in the state of North Carolina. And I do know that Ms. Guth, our Cooperative Extension Director, is active on the state level and did come to us prior to coming to Pitt County with a tremendous amount of farmers market experience. So I think we've, at this point in time, I think we've come to a conclusion where the vendors, whether food and non-food, can coexist. We've limited the occupancy. We put signage up asking folks to wear masks. We've asked our vendors to wear masks. And obviously, like we've talked in the last couple of meetings, we can't question somebody directly as to why they're not wearing a mask, if assuming they will fall under one of the 11 exemptions that the governor's order allows. So that was just to kind of let you know that we kind of backed up from our original intent on that in terms of who we would allow to continue to sell out there. We're allowing everybody continuing to sell right now. Mr. Chairman, there's a hand up by Commissioner Nunnally.
Okay, Commissioner Nunnally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to, maybe this is appropriate time. I just wanted to thank Scott and staff, Farmers Market, for working out a situation to keep the non-food vendors in place, and also really buckling down on the messaging to make sure that folks are masking and continuing to remain vigilant as the virus is still with us. And I do just want to say that, you know, I hope that the vendors that are making the irresponsible, you know, that continue to be responsible and make decision to mask, and those that do access those sites mask. I do hope that the same level of vigilance will also be in place for other areas where the public accesses our county facilities. I do have to say I've accessed the county building maybe 2 or 3 times over the last couple of weeks since the governor's order has gone in place. I've passed numerous individuals in the hallway entering the building without that were not wearing a mask upon entry. That's troubling to me at this point. I don't really understand why anyone would be entering a facility without a mask on when they're going to be passing other people in the hallway. So I hope that the efforts we've made at the farmers market, you know, I hope that will also, so we don't have complaints and we don't have spread within our facilities. Hopefully those efforts will also happen in other places where the public access our county facilities. So again, you can't do everything to get everyone on board to be responsible, but so long as they're accessing our county buildings, and if heaven forbid, these are county employees entering our buildings without masks that are interacting with the public, I think that we need to be very stern in our messaging at this point that that's totally unacceptable to put our public at risk accessing our county building. So I hope that we can continue to remain vigilant on that messaging and be really, really upfront about it. So just wanted to make that comment here, and don't need any further comment.
You have Commissioner Albright hand up.
Commissioner Albright.
Are the vendors to wear masks?
They are, yes, the vendors are required to wear masks, but again, a vendor could qualify for one of the 11 exemptions.
But why, I mean, so we can't require them, is what you're saying, that any vendor can go in there and not wear a mask, and there's nothing we can do about it. We can't say that you must wear a mask if you want to sell in this building. I'm just trying to clarify that this is the attorney's point, viewpoint here.
You could say that. You could say this is a county building and you may not enter it as a vendor if you are not wearing a mask, but the county has not done that. We are currently under the governor's order, which does not have that same level of enforceability or requirement. It's not my position that you can't do that. It's my position that
I'd like to move that we require people, vendors, to wear masks.
Is that discriminatory in any manner, Madam Attorney?
No, you have jurisdiction over your county facilities, and the governor's order specifically allows local jurisdictions to make more stringent requirements than the governor's order allows. So I don't believe that that would be a discriminatory act. It's just a choice of the board.
Mr. Chairman, you have a hand up by Commissioner White.
Okay, Commissioner White.
Is it true that the governor's order gives exceptions to people that might have a particular health problem that they cannot wear a mask, correct?
Are you asking me? Yes, that's correct.
Would it not be a sort of HIPAA violation, if not at least unethical, to ask a vendor what their health problem is that they cannot wear a mask? We don't have the right to do that, do we?
Under the current governor's order, we do not, we are not authorized to ask that reason. I don't know that it's a HIPAA violation specifically, because that body of law is specific to different healthcare providers or clearinghouses. But if your point is that that we don't have the ability to ask folks their medical conditions, it's our common practice that we don't ask folks about their medical conditions. Correct.
Exactly. And the whole time we've been talking about stay on the same page with the governor, stay on the same page with the governor. I will not support any motion to require a vendor to wear a mask, because they may very well have a good reason for not wearing one. And I do not think that we should be asking them about it, because I mean, that goes against confidentiality. I mean, no, I don't support that.
Mr. Chairman, you have Commissioner Nunnally and Commissioner Perkins Williams hands up.
Okay, Commissioner Nunnally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Commissioner Albright, for making the motion. And I really want to, I guess, ask Madam Attorney here, because I continue to support an effort to have, if you're conducting business at county, and if you're a member of the public entering a county building, I think that we need to make it a requirement, and including for employees, if we're traversing the hallways, that it's a requirement if you're going to encounter the public that you wear a mask when you enter the building. Now, given that it's not on our agenda today, I guess presumably I'm not sure if we're in order to discuss this, and so I wonder if it might be appropriate to address it in a different setting and come back with benchmarks, because I certainly think that if we do make it a requirement at the farmers market that the vendors do it, I do think that we would have to make, in best practice, make some level of accommodation to make sure that if the folks cannot wear a mask, they be given an opportunity to provide documentation if we've got that more stringent safeguard in place. Because look, the public's health is paramount in the pandemic, and so so I will refrain from seconding right now. Maybe Madam Attorney, could you outline the position procedurally, whether or not this would be the appropriate time to address this, at not being on our agenda for today?
It is not on your agenda today. You have noticed a regularly scheduled board meeting, and nothing prohibits you from addressing this item today if the board chooses to do so.
Okay. Well, I would second Commissioner Albright's motion then, with the caveat that with a slight modification that, and perhaps I'll couch it in terms of a substitute motion, that we require vendors and members of the public that enter county buildings that they be masked, and that if there is a medical exception, that for a vendor at the farmer's market, that they provide our public health director in confidence by way of communicating through an application process that they do have a valid exception to the masking requirement, and that we make provision to properly notice the public and to have an area in the farmer's market where these vendors can properly set up safely, and that members of the public that enter our county buildings, that upon entry that they be masked, including employees of the county, as they enter and exit the building, regardless if it's going to smoke a cigarette or going to, just get a breath of fresh air, that they as they're entering and exit the building, and when they're going to interact with the public, that they're masked entering and exiting. So that's my modified motion from Commissioner Albright.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A very close relative of mine, you can't look at them and tell that there is an underlying look at and tell that there is an underlying commission, as well as myself. Here's what I would like to know from, what are the hours for the Eugene James? No, that's not, that's where you all are. What's that?
Leroy
For
James.
the Leroy James, the Jameses got me. The Leroy James is, what are the hours for that accessibility for the general public?
I think we're looking it up on the website right now. Hold on just a moment.
Well, as you look that up, and as an effort of time, I am very conscious of having been suffered from several kinds of discriminatory actions. I am very aware and conscious, and it's important that everyone has the opportunity, that everyone has everything. You know what I'm saying? I am very open to cross the board opportunity for services, business, housing, everything. And that's where I voted ever since I've been elected to represent people, regardless of who they are, regardless of what position they hold. I think everyone should have governmental services of everything we can provide, and anything else is discriminatory. And if it's a personal matter, it's really none of your business. But here's what I like to know. If there are certain amount of times and hours, I know that there are situations where people cannot be masked more than maybe 3 or 4 hours. And that means that they can come in 3 or 4 hours, maybe get through it, because I've not been to the market lately. But that's how my votes go. And I make the decision when the motion is made and to go along with it. So I do need that time period for the, if we're gonna, since we have a motion on the floor. What was it?
Yes.
We ready?
The market is open 3 days a week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 8 to 1 p.m., 5 hours a day. So it'd be a total of 15 hours per week.
Okay, so setup time.
Yeah, I'm sure they come in early before 8 o'clock to set their produce and the vendor displays up.
Yeah, I think that's what you're saying. So they do have some personal time period to set up and provide the service. And they can just put a sign out for it, but the majority of the time is within the range of 3 to 4 hours. So thank you very much for that information.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you have Commissioner Coulson and Commissioner White's hand up.
Okay, Commissioner Coulson.
Well, as far as the mask, there are certain people that cannot wear a mask. If an individual has emphysema severe enough, they can't wear a mask. I know an individual that if they are wearing a mask, and even when they're on oxygen with one of the portable antigen things, that within 15 minutes, their oxygen level drops to 77%. It's supposed to be a minimum 93%. It's dangerous when it gets into the 80%. And so one way around that might be a shield. Shields are not as effective as a mask, but for us to just say a mask, I think that goes a little bit far. What you're doing is penalizing, and I really think it's discriminatory against people who actually have these diseases. They're the ones at risk, not you, the mask wearer. People that are sick with these type of diseases. And I don't know that we want to put a yellow Star David on people so that they have to disclose that they have some medical condition. The governor doesn't require that. And I think it goes a little bit far for us as a county to try to mandate something before or stronger than that, although we might be able to do it. I thought I was listening closely, but I did not hear an actual motion proposed that has been seconded. But assuming that it has, Janice, let me ask you a question. How do we enforce this?
Well, it's not entirely clear to me yet what you're enforcing. If it's a mask requirement, you enforce it by the person who's at the door counting people to come in, advising that they can't come into the building unless they're masked. And the farmer's market manager.
And if they refuse to walk in, what happens?
If they refuse and walk in, then I suppose you call on. Then I would suppose you would call law
You do
enforcement.
what?
You would call law
Okay,
enforcement.
so we're going to arrest people for this. And what would the penalty be?
Well, I'm not sure
What's
that
it going to cost?
I'm not,
We can't get court cases through the courts now because of COVID, and we're going to clog up the courts on things like this. Is that where we're headed? Is that where we're headed? I'd like to know.
I'm not sure if I follow your
What
question.
about how many people? If somebody is not wearing a mask, and we call law enforcement, and they come out and they arrest the person, what is the penalty? Do they go to jail? They're going to end up in a detention center? Is there going to be a fine associated with this, and how much?
The enforcement remedy.
There's a
will be
lot to
the
be.
law enforcement officer. So they might choose to educate, they might choose to issue a citation. I would think that an arrest might be unusually harsh under that circumstance.
Well, then what you're saying is that essentially it can't be enforced.
Well, not necessarily.
How many of us have gone out to various and sundry places and we've seen people wearing a mask improperly? What are we going to do about that? You can wear a mask, and I see them walking around all the time. It's around their chin, or maybe it's only over their mouth. It's not over their mouth and their nose. Aren't they exposing us to potential infection because they're not wearing it properly? What are we going to do with them? Are we going to arrest them as well? Are we going to penalize them? Oh no, they were wearing a mask improperly, but they were wearing a mask. I think it's ludicrous for us to go anywhere stronger than what the governor has issued. That's all.
Okay. Was there anybody else?
You have Commissioner White, Ann Floyd Huggins, and Nunnally.
Commissioner White?
Chairman McLaughlin, again, I agree with all Tom's points that he just made. And I'm really not even sure it's legal that we require why they may not be wearing a mask. And then I wanted to read in the governor's order after he lists the 11 reasons for exemption from wearing a mask. It also states anyone who does not be required to produce documentation or any other proof of a condition.
Okay, Commissioner White, you was breaking up a little bit. I don't know whether everybody heard you clearly or not.
Oh, I apologize. Am I breaking up now?
No, you sound good now.
Okay. I said that I agree with Commissioner Coulson's comment, and I'm also not sure a county we would be open if we require vendors to produce doctor to our hut while they are not wearing a mask. And in the governor's executive order, after it lists the 11, says anyone who declines or were y'all able to hear all that this time?
No, you still was breaking up, but I think you were somewhat supporting Commissioner Coulson motion recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay. I think she's having some technical problems, and we can't hear you clearly. But we think we have the essence of what you're saying, Commissioner White.
So you still have Commissioner Ann Floyd Huggins and Nunnally.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to remind or just say that to visit the farmer's market is at will. I mean, you don't have to go to the farmer's market. You can go to the supermarket and buy your goods or whatever. And some of the vendors who sell non-food items are able to put their information online, so you can contact them and purchase the items, arrange for a pickup for those non-food items like the crafts and whatever. So you don't have to go to the farmer's market. But I do agree that we should require face masking or face covering to enter the farmer's market, just like Walmart does, just like Lowe's does, all of those other ones. So if you choose not to wear a mask or face covering, then don't go into the farmer's market. And for the people who cannot, who have underlying ailments or whatever can't wear face covering for a long period of time, again, get somebody to shop for you if you want something from the farmer's market. I do think that I agree with Albright and Nunnally that we need to set a standard for the farmer's market, just like the county office. So I agree with the face masking or face covering for these areas. And if you have health issues, I think that for vendors now, they could have something that says exempt, and you don't have to identify why you're being exempt from using required to wear a face mask and a face covering. So with that said, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call for the question.
Okay, very good. I think we have talked about this enough, but let me ask Commissioner Albright and Commissioner Nunnally, if in fact we could include in that motion mask and or face covering, would that be acceptable, as Commissioner Floyd Huggins just mentioned?
It's certainly acceptable to me. My motion was only about the farmer's market, and I think that that was brought up by the manager's report. When we're talking about the whole county, I think that's a little. It's not really. It seems a very different issue, and it does, as several people have pointed out, present enforcement issues. When we have the farmer's market, which is only what I was talking about, is a discrete building, as it's been pointed out to us by Commissioner Huggins, we have the right to control that. And as it's pointed out, people don't have to go there. So it's really just the farmer's market that I'm concerned about right here. And certainly face coverings is adequate to me. I'm fine.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I interject with a quick comment regarding the vendors at the farmer's market? The last time on July 13th, when we were talking about a change of operation to the farmer's market, a lot of due criticism that we received as staff was the fact that we did not involve them before we came to you, telling them what we were, how we were proposing to change the non-food vendors and so forth. And then, as I read in those comments, subsequently, we did have 2 Zoom calls with them and got their input. I would just, I guess, in defense of the vendors, which may not need to be part of this equation, but just in their defense, to let you know that those vendors who are not wearing masks will probably be highly upset that we did not consult them in this process. But this is your decision, I understand, but I just wanted to interject that thought.
That is a very good point. And that did come up in comments on the last time. Commissioner Albright and Commissioner Nunnally, would that be agreeable for the manager to actually discuss this prior to having a vote on it today with the vendors? What is your pleasure on that, Commissioner Nunnally?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify and just be we need to be very frank about this point, that we need to be creative and assist those that have bona fide reasons that they cannot wear a face covering. And we need to make sure that these vendors, if there's a health exception, that we, and people that are going to come to the farmer's market, that we can, if it's a drive-up service, if it's someone that can come and take orders, if we can volunteer, there are ways that we can assist people that have underlying health conditions to get through this pandemic. And we do it by being helpful and creative without exposing the rest of our public to the threat of infection. So we just need to stay focused on this. Is not a punishment. If anything, we need to take extra accommodation for those with health risks right now. We don't need them entering the farmer's market if they've got emphysema or if they've got something, because that's a high risk environment. So maybe we can find ways to do it. So I'm not opposed to putting off a vote if it's a consultation of the vendor. However, You know, nothing in what I would call for is boxing out anyone from being able to sell their wares. If anything, the new normal is taking steps to allow for the opportunity of commerce to go forward, because we're all taking steps to keep each other safe. And we need to do that in the county, and we need to do that as the public. So I don't think that they're mutually exclusive as as some commissioners might otherwise argue. So I don't think that we can, in other words, I think we can make it happen without hurting. But if in the manager's interest and if Commissioner Albright's amenable to it, I'm fine putting it off just to make sure we've got a plan in place before we put it out there. Certainly don't want to create more problems, but really the interest has to be for the public. And I will say that my comment, in addition to that additional motion of Commissioner Albright, because he brought it up, what I'm saying is that if you enter a county building, that you just enter it masked. And if you can't be masked, you know, I just think it's unacceptable at this time that I've been to the county building 2 or 3 times and I've passed people in the hallway without wearing a mask. And I just don't, I guess I just don't understand it. When I go to the supermarket, I see the employees' mask, people walking into the supermarket, they're popping up their mask. I don't understand why that's not happening just at the county office building. And it may just be an exception, odd exceptions just happen in front of me, but I just don't understand it at this point in the pandemic. I mean, we're a little bit long in the tooth for this type of thing to still happen at a public building. And the governor's order touches public buildings. And if I seem agitated, I'm a little bit frustrated by it. I think we all should be. So in order that it's not an overreach, but just makes clear that, look, if you're traversing the hallways or if you're accessing our county services, that you're masked, and we need to be strong on that.
Okay. Very
Mr.
good.
Chairman, you've got several hands up, and got a message from Commissioner White basically saying that if her internet connection breaks up again, she says, my vote is no to the mask mandate if we don't put it off for a consultation. You also have hands up by Mary Perkins Williams, Commissioner Albright, and Ann Floyd Huggins. And I think we want to clarify the motion, substitute motion as well.
So I'm not certain that you have a motion with a second on the floor. I understand Alex Albright's motion is to require require a face covering or mask at the farmer's market. I don't believe the second matched the motion by Chris Nunnally, since there were amendments that have not been accepted by Alex Albright. And so I just clarify that from a procedural perspective, that I don't believe you yet have a motion that's been seconded on the floor. And I know that Mary Perkins Williams had hoped to make a point of order.
Okay. So now do we need to have that second for a substitute motion? Or Madam Attorney, there was talk also by Commissioner Nunnally to possibly delay it based upon what the manager said to get back to us to have more of a clarification and notification to the vendors.
Right. So currently you don't have anything on the floor. It would just be if something was either seconded that is on the floor or is a new motion that's made. It would not yet be a substitute because you don't have a seconded motion on the floor.
It's your choice, Mr. Chairman, as a board.
I think then, based upon what I'm hearing, that we'll allow you to at least notify the vendors so that there wouldn't be any type of problems with them in terms of not being notified. We did have that occurred at the last hearing that we had. Vendors was mad and upset because this was thrown upon them without having any input. So I think, if we could just proceed with that and bring this back, while I do believe masking is certainly critical, or face covering, that we would at least let the vendors be aware of it.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you want to take the additional comments or just move on, but you do have Commissioner Perkins Williams, Albright, and Floyd Huggins' hand still up. I don't know if I'll leave it up to you.
I think based upon what we've already discussed and what we've outlined, we've heard it we heard the question being made, and then we've discussed. So I think we ought to proceed moving forward now.
Okay. Two other items. Hopefully these will go quicker. Item F, just want to make you aware of the NCACC. We're missing a C there in that acronym for the legislative goals process. We'll be kicking that off. That'll be for the new biennium coming up for, hard to say, 2021 and 2022. That is both for the long session of the General Assembly beginning in January of 2021. Then I think the short session begins like in May of 2022. This is a process where the State Association of County Commissioners that proposed legislative goals from counties that are then created through a process to create a statewide legislative goals list for the association. We will be reaching out to the department heads for proposed goals of the different departments. That'll come back before you, and then we'll work that process to then submit it to the state. That's just an FYI. Last item at your last meeting again back on July 13th, there was a question about the possibility of using the PATS van transportation system, the Pitt area transit system, for voter transportation on election day. We've looked into that, and basically the short on it is that because we receive both federal and state money, one of the county certifications to the FTA, or the Federal Transit Authority, is that we will comply with what is called the Hatch Act. The Hatch Act prohibits us from engaging in political activities. With that said, there are conflicting opinions on whether the Hatch Act would prohibit us to transport to polling places on election day, but we believe there's enough legal concern in there that it's not a good idea to do it, and that would more than likely not be a legal thing. Also, there's the cost consideration as to how it would be paid for, and also if the vans are delivering voters to the polling places, who's going to deliver the citizens who need dialysis and other type of transportation needs at the same time. So it's not like we have a whole fleet of extra vans sitting around. Those vans are used for human public transportation, i.e. for dialysis and medical needs. So just wanted to follow up and report on that. We do have a hand up by Commissioner Ward and Perkins Williams.
Commissioner Ward. Commissioner Ward.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, two things. Going back, I would like for someone to verify the notification number for the cell phones to receive the report relative to the hurricane. We were asked to leave our phones on, all night, which I liked that idea. And I think we have the responsibility for keeping our citizens, but I don't know that all of them have access. So if we could either put that up on our website. The other thing is, I would be glad to come in if they're with distancing for any hearings in the future that we may need to do. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, on the Commissioner Ward's comment on the notification, I think what our emergency management director was referring to as, like with American Red Cross, they have a notification system through your smartphone that if there's a tornado, flood, or some type of hazardous condition, your phone will go off. You may have been in meetings where everybody's phone goes off at the same time with a emergency alert alarm going off. That is a service you have to sign up for through the, i.e. the American Red Cross has that. I'm sure there's several others out there as well. But we do not have a service as such that I'm aware of that notifies the public of an impending disaster or emergency weather alert.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Anybody, any other hands?
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mrs. Attorney Gallagher, I do know that this board really stress you as it relates to parliamentary procedure, but it bothers me when we are in and this is a point of order. When a person calls for a point of order, it changes things. What is the order? And I think we need to shore up on our parliamentary procedure. When someone is speaking and somebody come out and call the question ends debate. And I find that rude. So I think when people are talking until everybody's hand is up, I don't think we need to be, and this is a point of order. We should not be cutting people off when someone is speaking with I call for questions just because you are already speaking on the issue. We need to go through, since we're in a pandemic and we must be required to use Zoom, I think we should go through that list of hands up. And then if someone calls for a point of order, because we can't send a chat in this, I think everyone should be given an opportunity to discuss. And I know I'm long-winded sometimes, and I know another commissioner is long-winded, but don't call, I call for question just because you have made your point in the discussion. I find that rude and it really sets me off. So Madam Attorney, please, in the, are we still using Robert's Rules of Order?
Is that a question for me? You're using the rules of procedure that this board has adopted and supplemented by Robert's rules when your rules are silent as to that matter.
All right, because I know we have Robert Rules of Order in the policy, and I try to govern by the policy that we have, but we get off of the policy. This, Chris was talking and somebody finished talking and they call for the question. Question ends debate. So we need to stop being discourteous to people, our colleagues, our board members. That's one of the things that I learned in this last meeting, that we need to understand Robert's Rules of Order. If we're not going to use it, we need to take it out of policy, as well as some other things that's in the board policy. So let's read this board policy and follow up on it. Thank you. And I would appreciate some order so that I can follow things. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, if I just may say, there
Yes.
was no call to the question because you didn't have a motion that was properly seconded.
Thank you. Okay, any other hand?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. We are now moving on to the items for consent. Could we have a motion to
Commissioner Nunnally's hand is up,
Commissioner Nunnally?
and
Move
Commissioner
that we accept the items for consent.
Okay, very good. You will have us second, Mr. Manager?
yes, Commissioner Ward.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes, I second that motion.
That's been moving properly second. Madam Clerk?
Chairman McLawhorn,
Yes.
Vice Chair Coulson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunnally,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Approved.
Motion passes unanimously.
Very good. That next item, proposed resolution declaring racism a public health crisis. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this item again is a follow-up item from your last meeting on July 13th, where, Mr. Chairman, you asked us this item to be on the agenda. Staff was then directed to create the resolution declaring racism a public health crisis using commissioner input. We did receive commissioner input from several of the commissioners, and trying to keep the original intent and flow, which I think are the words I used in the agenda abstract of the resolution. Not all of that input was able to be implemented, but to the best degree that I or we could, we did input it in there. So you have before you on page 61 of the agenda, the proposed draft resolution. And there were a couple comments of board members coming in and wanted to tweak this word and that word. We asked them if they would, just to bring those comments and suggestions to the meeting today for the full board's consideration.
Okay, very good.
You have a hand up by Commissioner Floyd Huggins.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins.
And a hand up by Commissioner White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I believe well, let's hope that everybody read the enclosed document. And I was gonna move to make a motion to approve the resolution for Pitt County declaring racism a public health crisis.
Very good. Do we have a second on that motion?
You have two hands up here, Commissioner White and Commissioner Coulson. They were prior to the motion being made, I believe, but their hands are up.
Commissioner Ward as well.
Pardon me?
Commissioner Ward as well.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Ward too.
Okay. Let's go with Commissioner Ward. Commissioner Ward.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I second the motion.
Has been moved and properly second. Now we have a hand up by Commissioner Coulson and Commissioner.
Yes, Commissioner White was first and Commissioner Coulson second.
Commissioner White.
I just had a couple of comments on the resolution. I wanted to start off by saying that when I look at people, I am colorblind. I see people as people, not as a Black person, a white person, a brown person. Like I said, I'm colorblind. That's the way I was raised. And I think that's the way this whole world should be. And then I just wanted to, I'm not going to read everything that I sent in. Most of what I sent in was not incorporated, but I do just want to read a few points that I sent in for the resolution. To encourage an American way of life that prioritizes our free enterprise system and respects the decisions of the court. Recognize that our most important function is to make certain we develop policies that guarantee every person's freedom and security is protected. Reinforce the importance of creating policies which model our guaranteed freedoms of speech, religion, and orderly assembly. And also understand that we are all created in the image of God. And because of this, we should expect and receive from each other basic and decent rights, privileges, and social discourse. With that being said, I just want to say that I would have liked to have seen this resolution be a little bit more colorblind in itself.
Thank you, Commissioner Coulson.
Well, when I read this, it started off pretty good, but then as it went down, it started talking about things that have absolutely nothing to do with racism. COVID-19, we heard this morning from the doctor that Silvernell, that 24% of Blacks were actually being tested positive, whereas it was a lot more by the white population. That's not bad for a county that's got 38% Black. So if you're 24%, you're less than the original percentage of the population. That says something. So we got something in this motion right here, or not this motion, but this document that talks about something that doesn't exist. There are other things in here that I don't understand. Is it indicates that racism is only white people have racism, because it's saying that people of color are mentioned several times in here. Anybody ever heard of somebody that's not white being racist? Well, there are plenty of them out there. Farrakhan is a perfect example of it. If there's ever a racist, he's it, and he's not white. The thing that it talks about with 70% of HIV infections, it's eluding that somehow or another that's tied to racism. Really? That's a life choice. It doesn't have. Nobody has to have HIV if they practice good personal, I'm going to say, protection, and don't go out and get into misbehaving activities that leads them to get the HIV infection. So why is that in there? I mean, again, that's a life choice. And all through this thing, it just troubles me. I find this document not to be one that's going to help heal anything. I find it to be a wedge issue. And we're driving, if this gets adopted, I think we just drove the wedge in a little deeper. And I don't see the benefits in doing that. We have a lot of problems in this country, and they can be resolved. But when everything is being touted that the white people of this country are at fault for every problem that's out there, it's not true. And I can't vote for this.
Okay, very good.
Chairman, you have Mary Perkins Williams hand up.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom, Commissioner Coulson, I know Blacks who are racist, and it's not necessarily Farrakhan. Yes, racism does exist, and I can recognize that. And I'm going to say, if I tell somebody white that I don't see race, then that means I'm ignoring them, because in order to communicate and with a person's name, and I'm going to use myself because I don't want to use anybody's name up here. My name is Mary Williams. I have to use all kind of forms of my name on my birth certificate, because there are, my first name is Mary Williams. Because I got married, I had to change it to my ex's name. So now I'm Mary Williams. But there are Mary Williamses in this community who are named something else other than me. And I'm Black or African American or colored or whatever. Just call me Mary Perkins Williams. But I want to say that there are racism in this community, in this state, in this nation, and it's recognized. And until you are at the short end of the stick, you don't see it fully. And you don't feel it with the capacity for which it stands. Now, sometimes racism is exemplimented based on the religion you believe in. Way back it was Catholic. But I want to say this. I want you to understand, if I say Mary Williams, who's white, then I'm making a distinction in my communication skills, because with all the other Mary Williamses out there where you use first and last name, I'm making a distinction that I'm the one who's Black, Mary Williams, and I have Perkins in my name because I find that to be the unique part of the Mary Williams. So racism exists because I'm, what nationality? Martian, because I'm a Martian, because because one of the other Mary Williams might not like Martians. So you understand, it's a clarity of things that's happening in this country, and it's health, economics, and everything else. So I do support the racial thing, and we don't have same X. I'm so sorry, Commissioner Coulson, but we don't have this. As a Black person, I do not have the same privileges as another Mary Williams who's another race than I am. I've lived it, I've experienced. Yes, some things are by choice, and I make those choices, but I made a choice to stay with my parents and help my parents because it was an element of duty. My parents couldn't read. They were not allowed to learn to read when they were born. So racism does exist. And I just want to say that, and that's where I stand on race. And I don't talk to people because they are this and that, but I haven't lived but one life, and that's an African-American female. And that's the life I had because that's who I am. But I want to talk to my neighbor next door because she's something else, so I can understand her experiences. But when I have vegetables that overloading in my garden, I'm gonna give them to anybody who want them. And I'm not just gonna give them to white and not just gonna give them to black. I'm gonna give them to anybody who want it. And you can call me racial all you want to. It's my vegetable and I'll give it away. And that's how I see things. So I do want a racial big policy, but I do some things. You are right, Commissioner Coulson. Some things are choices, because if I make the choice to walk outside with my clothes off, something wrong. Help me out. So I want us to have a policy, but I don't particularly like the way some of the things are written in here. But we need a racial policy because people don't see race, and that is the problem. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any other hands, Mr. Manager?
Yes, Commissioner Nunnally.
Commissioner Nunnally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think it's important to note that, while individual racism exists everywhere, there's only one type of institutional racism, and it was stood up by white people for a long time in this country. And that this proclamation and other steps that we're making in the community to make sure that we really do make steps to deconstruct and use that word strongly, institutional racism in our community. And that this is just one piece along with others that we take together to make sure that while individual racism may continue, we work hard to correct that individually within our own families in the light of God or in the light of whatever you believe, the betterment of humanity. But we as a government body take steps to deconstruct institutional racism, which has affected African Americans in this community for upwards of over 400 years. And so I'll support the proclamation.
Thank you very much. If Mr. Manager, that was all the hands up.
It looks like Mary Perkins Williams' hand may have went back up or it wasn't taken down, one or two.
Okay, I think she's spoken. We should now be ready to vote. That's been moving properly second. Madam Clerk.
Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Coulson,
No.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunnally,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
No.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
We're voting on this. Yes, yes. I think I'm supposed to vote yes because I want this policy. Not maybe
Motion.
this one, but I want the policy.
Motion passes 7-2.
Very good. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to items for decision. Brian Barnett.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners. I'm glad to be with you this morning. I brought to you in your packet a budget amendment for $4,847,574 to transfer some restricted sales tax monies that the county must set aside as we collect our sales tax. This money has to be used on school capital and school debt. We had brought up this topic during our budget discussions back in May and June with the intent of coming back to you on 1st of August with a list of projects. We have met with the school system. You have in front of you 6 projects that have been presented to you several times during our January capital improvement projects. They're at Aiden Middle School paving, the school bus cameras, the Walcoats electric and HVAC, fire alarm replacement, fire system upgrades, and camera upgrades at are the 6 projects that the Pitt County Schools would like to use this funding on. I just want to remind you that this funding, being that it's a restricted revenue, does not have an impact on the county's overall financial picture because we are required to set this money aside. We think the timing is right with the COVID situation that we may be able to get some of these projects a little bit lower from a cost standpoint than we would have if we have done this a year ago or a couple of months ago. But in order to make this process happen with the school system, we would just need to do this simple budget amendment to move the funds from our restricted money into a fund source that allows us to actually pay for the projects. That being said, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
You have two hands up, Commissioner Perkins Williams, well, three hands, Perkins Williams, Ward, and White.
Commissioner Perkins Williams. Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason I am so delayed because I have to click two places to unmute myself. So I thank you all for your patience. I'd like to offer the motion that we accept that we approve the finance office to go along with the finance officer's recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Ward. With it.
Yes, Ward and White. Ward is next.
Commissioner Ward. Commissioner Ward.
I second the motion. Can you hear me?
Okay, it has been moved and properly second. Madam Clerk.
Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Coulson,
You didn't give Commissioner White a chance to speak.
Yeah, she was in line. You're correct, Commissioner Coulson, Vice Chairman Coulson.
She will have a chance to speak. Thank you. And now continue the vote, please.
Vice Chairman Coulson.
No, I'm not going to go because she has not had a chance to speak.
She will have a chance to speak.
If we vote on it, then it'll be a done issue potentially. Madam Attorney, point of order. Is it proper to ignore one of the people that had their hand up prior to the motion being made and seconded, and then ignore them? Is that a proper thing to do?
Are you asking me? So as your parliamentarian, and you all are challenging me today, my role is to provide advice to the chairman, and the chairman controls and runs this meeting. It was properly announced to him the hands that were called by staff, which is our role because of the challenges associated with the remote environment in the virtual meeting. So not exactly sure how to answer your question. Typically, folks are permitted, if they would like to discuss, typically each person, member of the board, has an opportunity to speak on the motion before it's voted on, if that's what they want to speak on. But the chairman runs this meeting, and I defer to his discretion.
Okay.
Well, I'm not going to vote until she may have wanted to second it, but that's not the necessarily point. Point is, a third person wanted to say something, and then we went into the vote, and we're ignoring that third person. I don't think that's proper. I refuse to vote.
Okay. The Commissioner White will be allowed to speak after the vote. Continue, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunnally,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes, and Commissioner Coulson, I do appreciate that. I was going to try to make a motion, so but I do appreciate your comments, Commissioner Coulson.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
I think Tom was correct, Mr. Chairman, in saying once you vote and you voted up or down, the issue is closed. But I do say that when the motion is made and the second is made, there should be an allowance for discussion from the colleagues that this board represents throughout Pitt County before the vote is taken. And so since we gotten this far and one way or the other, the majority has been yes. I was going to vote yes anyway, because we do know those need those cameras and everything else for the school system. But my answer is yes, but I wanted to say how I felt about the parliamentary procedure. Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I was just simply saying, once the vote is taken, the issue is closed because we voted either up or down. So there's no need of talking about it. So let's yes, and we're ready to move on.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, very good. Commissioner White, you'd like to make a statement now? Commissioner White, would you like to make a? Okay,
No,
thank you.
nothing to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item, Mr. Manager.
This next item is the Stallings mini storage, minor design modifications to their approved site plan, and James Rhodes can handle this.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have one planning matter before you today, and it lies somewhere between what staff can handle internally and doesn't necessarily require a new application or a new public hearing. So this item deals with a minor modification to a site plan that was approved by the board back in November as part of conditional use permit, and I'll go through the details. It is Stallings Mini Storage Incorporated. This is located off of B. Stokes Road off 43, NC 43 South, about a mile or so from D.H. Conley High School, just to orient you. Again, here's the actual location. Here's the intersection of NC 43 South and B. Stokes Road, about a quarter of a mile or so onto B. Stokes Road. This is the area that is being considered. It has already been rezoned and considered for a conditional use permit for a mini storage facility. And just so you can see here on the aerial photograph as well, there is an existing mini storage facility just next door. This site, you may can tell from the aerial photograph, also previously was a manufactured home park. For the minor design modifications, this is something that our zoning ordinance speaks to, and there should be no substantial impact on the neighboring properties. It's permissible with the approval of the permit issuing board, that being the Board of Commissioners, and does not require a formal application or hearing. This particular site, as I've mentioned, is already part of a rezoning that took place back in November, along with the conditional use permit, and is to allow the expansion of an existing self-storage facility. At that point in time, there were 11 exterior access only storage buildings for about 62,000 square feet. What you'll see in just a minute, and I'll share that updated land site plan with you in just a minute. This allows for 5 interior access storage buildings, and you can see with an increase of about 27,000 square feet, so almost half again the size of the original application. Some things that have been added to the site plan, including some landscape buffers, again with this increased density from both an adjacent manufactured home park and the roadway. And again, here's the approved site plan from back in November. Again, the boundary here of the parcel in question, those 11 buildings that were originally proposed, and also a stormwater pond. Again, a lot of impervious surfaces. This will require some stormwater management on site. This is your modified plan. Again, the same boundary, 5 larger buildings, along with around the perimeter, you can see in green some landscaping and screening from both the roadway here and an adjacent manufactured home park. And again, a large stormwater detention pond on site as well. Planning staff has reviewed this and we find that it does correspond with the minor modification as described by our zoning ordinance. And we do recommend approval of that today, Mr. Chairman. I welcome any questions.
Okay, very good. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, you have 3 hands up. You have Commissioner Fitzpatrick, Coulson, and Ward.
Okay, Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Motion to approve the modification.
Okay, Commissioner Coulson.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Also, we had
Second.
Brian Fagundis with our consulting on the phone too. I think he was wanting to speak on the matter to represent his client. I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll allow him to speak.
Mr. Chairman, good morning. This is Brian Fagundis. I really just wanted to be online to answer questions if you guys had any. Mr. Rhodes did a great job explaining the change in this plan. Essentially, it's a departure from the smaller individual externally accessed buildings to climate controlled internally accessed buildings. So if you guys don't have questions of me, I'll sit tight. If you do, please feel free to ask and I'll do my best to answer.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Chairman, you had Commissioner Ward's hand up prior to the motion and second too.
Okay, Commissioner Ward.
I'd like to second the motion.
Okay. Did also Commissioner, it has been moving properly second, but did Commissioner Coulson want to make a statement?
I did second it.
Okay.
He actually,
It was second by Commissioner Coulson. Okay, very good. All right, Madam Clerk.
Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Coulson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunnally,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Very
Thank you,
good.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner, this manager, I think is Mr. Sam Kroom now, is ready to come up.
correct. He's at the podium now.
Okay, very good. Mr. Kroom.
Commissioner McLaughlin, Commissioners, good to be with y'all again this morning. I bring you a item for decision, an order for collection. The Board of Commissioners shall issue an order of collection to the tax collector for fiscal year 2020, 2021 in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 105-321. It is my recommendation that you approve the order, and Chairman McLaughlin, that you sign this order. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You don't have any hands up for approval.
Yes, I've got Fitzpatrick, Ward, and White.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Ward.
Second the motion.
Has been moved and properly second. Commissioner White, were you making a motion to second as well, or do you have another comment?
I actually have a comment that I wanted to make and bring to the board's attention before we vote on this. I've spoken with Scott in the past about possible tax exemptions for business owners that have been forced to shut down due to the coronavirus, or business owners that have been forced to readjust the way that they operate, resulting in lost revenues. And Scott said that the county does not have authority to grant tax exemptions, that is something that the state would do. So I just wanted to ask this board if we could maybe give county staff some direction to maybe come up with a proposal to send to our state legislator to ask them for permission to grant exemptions to maybe certain business owners on their business property for businesses that have been shut down due to the virus.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, that might be a good legislative goal to consider as part of the goal process. You're looking for some type of immediate action. Again, that goal process is for the upcoming biennium for 2021, 2022. So it wouldn't be taken up until January at the soonest of 2021.
Very good. Also, could I get the our county attorney to chime in on that one too?
Can you share anything too?
I don't have anything additional to share. If it's something that the board would like to pursue as a legislative goal, we'll be bringing back proposed goals at the next meeting. If it's not something you want to consider as a legislative goal, the statement is correct that the county does not have the authority to relieve any taxpayer from the payment of their taxes as a result of COVID-19 business impacts, that we are required to collect all taxes that have been properly assessed and billed.
Very good.
I will remind the board in terms of, as Mr. Krim at the very beginning of the meeting showed, we had a 99.42% collection rate for the current fiscal year ending June 30th. This past year, we did lower the collection percentage in the budget as we presented it to you during budget. I think we went down to 98.5 as a collection percentage. And that's just a very slight, and that's due to thinking that there would be some issues with probably delinquent taxes out there. That is just a very slight decrease compared to what it has been. And your ad valorem property taxes is your number one revenue source, sales tax being number two in terms of how the general fund is funded. Just want to make that comment.
Okay. Okay. It sounds, Commissioner White, that this would be forward as a legislative goal. Would you be amenable to that?
I think it's a good goal, but so Scott, what you were saying is that would not come into effect until 2021, correct?
Well, it couldn't be heard until the long session that begins in 2021. And Janice, in terms of becoming a law, would be what?
It would be later that year. It would not, if you did it as a legislative goal, it would not impact the tax bills that were mailed in July and are due in September, late in January. So it would not have any direct bearing on those taxes if you followed the traditional legislative goals process. If the board wanted to do, if it was the will of the board to do something sooner than the legislative goals process, but to approach it legislatively, I believe there is an intent for the General Assembly to come back briefly this fall. And to the extent the board wanted to adopt some sort of resolution, we could do it outside of that normal goal process. But that would be something the full board would need to discuss and resolve and direct us to do.
And not to prolong the discussion, but then how do you separate out a business owner who's affected by COVID versus a residential owner who at the same time may have difficulty paying property taxes? I just see it as a slippery slope, I guess.
And I'm not sure that that type of tax exemption is appropriate in a special session following the short session. It would probably have to be deferred to long anyway. So might need to think about other alternatives after the meeting to accomplish that goal. You'd like me to?
Is this something that I can work with county staff on and bring back any suggestions at our next meeting?
We'd be happy to meet with you and have further discussions about it. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Very good. With that said, did we have a motion and a second that we accept the order of collection? That we did. Madam Clerk.
You have a hand.
Sir.
You have Commissioner Coulson's hand up. I'm sorry.
Okay, Commissioner Coulson.
Is going along with what Lauren had said, is there any way that we could look at it from a county standpoint, Janice and Scott, as to not being extremely aggressive of trying to collect taxes from people that are having a hardship and maybe delay that? Do we send out delinquent notices? And if we do, could there be something on there that says, ask for a reason as to why they're delinquent? And if they come back and they tell us that due to the government forcing them to shut down and or whatever, they're unable to pay the taxes this time, but they're willing to do it at some future time. Is there a way of being able to work that in?
I'll defer to our tax administrator who's at the podium.
Commissioner Coulson,
Yeah.
this past year, if you have looked at our collection reports each month, you'll see that we have made a big effort in calling citizens this year, sending them letters, corresponding with them, and building relationships. My approach is, I feel like that's the best approach. That is, my opinion, the reason why we just went up in COVID-19 by 0.05%, which a lot of the state would be proud to be going up during this time. That's because of the work of our collection staff. We do communicate with citizens, and we do establish payment agreements. Our position is not to do any harm to these citizens, and we will continue to do that this coming year by working with citizens throughout the year. And if they need additional time to pay these taxes, we will work that out with them. That said, the citizens of Pitt County did a tremendous job this year in paying their tax. As we called them, we worked out installment agreements from basically February to June, and they made their payments. This year, if it's any different, I will keep you posted as we communicate with citizens during the delinquent period from January through June, and let you know if they're struggling to pay their tax. But I would just like to have that opportunity to work with citizens one-on-one through my collection staff.
Okay.
If I may just add
Can you
to
hear me?
that. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't
Yes.
get this. Tom Coulson, can you hear me? I don't know whether I'm muted or not.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, well, then I think what Mr. Kroon was proposing is adequate. If he's willing to do that, the only caveat is do the citizens know to ask? Some will do it just automatically, and some might be thinking that they can't. But anyway, I think he's taking the right approach. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, you have two hands up, Perkins, Williams, and Ward.
Commissioner Ward. Commissioner Ward, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to support and approve the recommendation from the staff, and I think they've done a yeoman's job.
We already have a motion and second on the floor.
There has been a motion, a second already, Commissioner Ward.
Mr. Perkins Williams' hand is up.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Okay. I know there was a motion on the floor, but I think what Commissioner White said is a good idea, but we need to be incognito with the laws that exist currently. And I do think that we should take this up as at the legislative agenda. So after this vote is taken, I would like to offer that motion.
Okay. Are there any other hands, Mr. Manager?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Coulson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunnally,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes. And Mr. Chairman, if I am in order, I'd
Yes.
like to make the motion that we take this issue up of unusual circumstances of collecting taxes to the legislative agenda time.
Okay, you've made a motion with that. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, there are no hands up, but just to remind the board, we did say that we would, I would get with Commissioner White to further have discussions on this topic with the county attorney, and we would talk to her to see what the options are, whether it's short-term, medium-term, or long-term. But we'll be happy to bring a report back on that.
Okay.
Commissioner White's hand is up now.
Commissioner White.
Okay, yes, Scott, I was just gonna say that, I would like to meet with you sometime this week before our next meeting to go over what the options are for some tax relief for our people that have been forced to shut their businesses down.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. So that motion dies for lack of a second. All right, at this time, we're moving into our closed session.
Chairman, once we read the statement for a closed session, we'll empty out the room. Also, if we can just take a quick 2-minute break after we read that statement.
I can see it on your face, Scott. Yeah, we'll take a 2-minute break. Okay.
It is suggested that this board go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3, attorney-client privilege to consult with an attorney employed by the public body in order to preserve that attorney-client privilege between the attorney and public body. Also one for 143-318.11A4 to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries and other businesses in the area served by the public body. And finally, under 143-318.11A1 to prevent the disclosure of confidential information, if you will so move.
Thank you. We're currently into closed session. Could I get a motion?
You'll need your motion first.
Can I get
You'll
a
need a
motion?
motion, a second, and a vote first, and
Can I
then
get
you're
a
ready.
Motion? Mr. Manager?
Yeah, sorry, Ann Floyd Huggins.
Commissioner Huggins?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second. Madam Clerk?
Yes, Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Coulson,
Yeah.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunnally,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, we're now in closed session. We'll have a break for 2 minutes. Thank you.